Today, we're going to zero in on a single financial number. And no, it's not a million, it's not even 100,000. It's a figure that can actually fundamentally change your life, your stress levels, and even who you see yourself as. So let's just start with a question. I want you to really think about this for a second. Picture it. It's 3 in the morning, everything's dark and quiet, and your brain just kicks into overdrive. What is that one money fear that jolts you awake? You know the ones I'm talking about, right? For most of us, it's those sudden, out-of-the-blue hits. The car deciding it won't start right when you have to get to work. That email from HR you just never saw coming. Or a medical bill that just shows up out of thin air. These are the thoughts that can keep us completely trapped in a cycle of anxiety. But imagine if you could quiet that frantic voice in your head. What if there was a buffer? A specific amount of money that acts like what you could call a neuroscientific exhale, a real physical release of that built-up stress. Well, that number is 10,000 pounds. And look, it's not just some random figure pulled out of a hat. It represents this incredibly powerful psychological and practical threshold that can completely reframe your entire relationship with money. So what's the magic behind 10 grand? It's the point where life's financial problems really start to shift. They stop feeling like these life-altering catastrophes, and instead, they just become manageable annoyances. A crisis turns into an inconvenience. And this, right here, illustrates the core change perfectly. Having that cushion allows you to switch up your entire financial strategy. You stop just reacting and trying to protect yourself from disaster, and you can actually start looking for opportunities. You get to move from playing defense to playing offense. And you can see that difference so clearly here. On the left, when you're in defense mode, you are constantly reacting. You're just trying to survive, you know? A broken boiler is an absolute catastrophe. But over on the right, in offense mode, you're planning, you're seeing opportunities. And that same broken boiler? It's just an annoyance you know you can handle. This whole shift is driven by something called the emergency fund effect. And the key thing to get here isn't about spending the money. It's about the peace of mind that it buys you. That mental breathing room is what allows you to stop making panicked short-term choices and start making clear-headed long-term decisions. And this feeling, it's not just a nice metaphor. It's actually happening in your brain chemistry. That sense of security has a real biological impact. See, when you're living paycheck to paycheck, your brain is often flooded with the stress hormone cortisol. It's basically the chemical signature of fight or flight. And what we know from studies on chronic stress is that this literally locks the decision-making part of your brain in survival mode. It makes it almost impossible to think clearly about the future or about growth or opportunity. This chart just visualizes that change so perfectly. Before you have that 10,000-pound buffer, just look at this. The huge majority of your mental energy is just tied up in surviving. But once you have that security, all those cognitive resources are freed up. Your brain can finally switch its focus from just getting by to actually growing. But here's the thing. Maybe the most profound transformation of all isn't financial or even neurological. It's about who you see yourself as. The actual process of saving this money, it changes your identity. This quote just nails it. Getting to 10,000 pounds is not easy. It takes discipline, it takes focus, and every single choice you make to save instead of spend is a small act of prioritizing your future self. It really is a masterclass in delaying gratification. And that whole process creates this powerful identity shift. You start to move away from that broke identity, where it feels like money just slips through your fingers and saving feels impossible. You prove to yourself through your own actions that you are a saver. Money becomes a tool that you control, and that little voice in your head changes from I can't to I am. So let's just bring it all together. This whole thing isn't just about stocking cash in a bank account. It's a journey. It's a journey from constant stress to mental peace, from just reacting to actually planning, from being fragile to becoming resilient, and maybe most importantly, from seeing yourself as broke to knowing, really knowing that you are a saver. Which, of course, leaves us with one final and I think really powerful question. Once you've done the work, once you have that peace of mind and that new identity, the game completely changes. So, now that you're playing offense, what's your first move?